guy that owned Rebel magazine, and Larry Flynt, right? So I get a call from Larry Flynt. You know who this guy is?
I don't actually.
Larry Flynt's the guy that owned like 30 different magazines.
Okay.
You know, Rebel magazine and Gent and these skin magazines and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
He had gotten sued for libel because in one of the magazines that he published, someone wrote a story using a woman who won the Miss, Oklahoma or something beauty contest. And so she filed a lawsuit against him and won. And the case had gone all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and his lawyers were challenging it as a violation of the First Amendment, right? Anyway, he's coming into Washington, D.C. to go to the Supreme Court argument. He calls me on the phone. He says, Dan, he says, Larry Flynt here. I went, okay, yeah, okay, Ms. Flynt, what? He said, well, I'm coming in town for the Supreme Court argument. I'd like to have a meeting with you if I could. Could you come and see me tomorrow? I'm going to be staying at the Park Hotel. And so I say, okay, what's it about? He said, I can't talk with you on the phone about it. So the next day I get Father William J. Davis, who was my Jesuit superior at the headquarters, right? And we jump in the Blue Flame, his little car. We drive over to the hotel, right? And here are like 4 of these big stretch limos all parked in front of this hotel, which is the Larry Flynt entourage that are all there, right? So we go into the lobby, and we say, my name's Attorney Daniel Sheehan, Father Bill Davis. We're here to see Larry Flynt. Oh yes, he said. And they bring us over to this elevator, and they bring us up to the top floor of the penthouse. Right? We get out the elevator, and here's Larry Flynt in his gold-plated wheelchair. Right? So because he got shot, somebody tried to assassinate him. He's in this gold-plated wheelchair, and he brings us into the side room. And he said, "Look, I want to retain you at this the Christic Institute that you guys have. We'd like to retain you to investigate the death of Savitch. What was her first name? She was the original hostess of Frontline. Okay. When it first started. Yep. On PBS. Yeah. Right. Jessica Savitch, her name was. Yeah. And she and her husband had driven off a bridge in the middle of some storm, and he'd gotten drowned and killed. And he said, I think that was a murder. And I want to retain you guys to do the investigation. You guys did the Karen Silkwood investigation. You've done all these kind of things. And so I said, no, well, we don't, we're a 501c3 public interest group. We don't get hired to do investigations. I said, you could make a contribution to us if you wanted to. Yeah. It's all tax deductible. And I said, and we could then look into this if we figure out that there's some sort of major public interest thing here, that this was a murder and she's a major reporter and there's something important, we could then, make that public. And he said, well, would you do this? Would you just let me know first so I could publish it in my magazine, in Rebel magazine? And I'll give you guys the $1 million contribution. And I said, I think we could do that. He said, but there's one thing, he said, I've got an investigator that I'd like to have work with you on this. And I said, no, that's not how we do it. We've got our own investigators, because I had not only the guys, Bill Taylor and the guys that were in Moriarty, who still kept doing stuff for us for free, but I also had all the Jesuit guys, 42 countries all around the world that are giving information to our headquarters, right? So I said, no. I said, we'll do this ourselves. Just let me introduce you to them, right? And he dials the phone, and the door opens up, and in walks G. Gordon Liddy. Walks into the room, and I looked at him, and he comes over and he sticks his hand out like that. And I said, excuse me. I said, I told you we're not going to be dealing with anybody that you want to put in, and especially him. And Liddy turned to Flint and he said, see, I told you he wouldn't do it. So we say, no, we're not going to do this. And we don't know whether he was going to give us the $1 million or not. So I go downstairs and I go down the elevator and I'm starting to walk out of the hotel. All of a sudden somebody hollers and says, Mr. Sheehan. And I said, yes, yeah, what is it? And I go over and it was Gordon Novell.
Who is that?
Ah, good. You don't know?
No.
Gordon Novell is the guy that was arrested and prosecuted by James Garrison in New Orleans for burning down 555 Camp Street, the office where Lee Oswald
Whoa.
had the office. The guy that was the hardcore right-wing guy that was the head of the Latin American Anti-Communist League. One of the guy that was the former FBI guy, he had an office in the exact same building, on the exact same floor.
Whoa.
With him. And Gordon Novell was prosecuted and convicted for burning down that building in the midst of the investigation.
That's crazy.
Okay, and so it gets crazier. Okay, so he says, I want you to represent me. I want to get that criminal conviction of me expunged. And I said, well, you've already been convicted of it, and that was years ago, and you've already served the time and everything for it. He said, you don't do that. He said, no, I want you to, get that expunged for me. And so I said, I don't know anything about it, but here's my card. You can call me if you're. So I go back to the office, and a few days later he calls and he says, how's that investigation going? And I said, no, I haven't agreed to the investigation. He said, what? You son of a bitch. He said, I confided in you. And he threatened to kill me. Gordon Novell, right? Well, Gordon Novell ends up later being hired by John Alexander.
Whoa.
To be one of the investigators for NIDS.
Whoa.
To go around, trying to make people who are contactees come and give them the information.
Yeah.
And he's a spotter for people who are getting abducted.
Whoa.
Through my lab.
Crazy.
Abductions, right? And that's him. Okay, and so Gordon Novell, years later...
And you're implying that he was kind of part of the cover-up of the JFK assassination.
I'm just telling you what the facts are.
Well, the facts are weird.
The facts are weird.
Burned down 555 Camp Street,
facts are
which
weird.
Was being used as what by Lee Harvey Oswald?
That was an office for the Free Cuba group.
Okay.
The alleged Cuba group.
Right.
And this guy, Ben or Bert, whatever his name was, had his office right next door to him.
So Gordon Novell pops back up as this UFO.
He pops, later, because I'm out, 1994, I'm out, representing Dr. John Mack, and I was asked to do a presentation at the International UFO Congress. And so I'm doing a report on the International UFO Congress, and all of a sudden, Gordon Novell walks up out of the crowd and says, "Oh, Mr. Sheehan," he said, "look, I've got all these drawings and stuff about the UFOs and how their propulsion system works and all that kind of stuff, and he starts showing them to me, and he said, I've been working on these things and had a lot of time when I was in prison to do this, and I'd like to have you represent me to, get my stuff patented here," he says. That's Gordon Novell. And I'm saying, excuse me. I said, I don't think you quite remember, you're threatening to kill me, a number of years ago. Wow, he says, I didn't really mean that. And I said, and that was the last I had anything to do with him. Okay, so what does all that mean? What exactly does all that mean? That what I just sort of put it on the wall. Yeah. It's one of the cards on the wall. Yeah. To see, where, and you have the threads, the nylon threads that you put between the cards and figure out what's going on here. But there's lots of weird stuff. Lots of weird stuff. Lots of weird pieces. And those are all little data points because I know those things to be absolutely true. But, the reality is that during the Karen Silkwood case that we did, that Karen Silkwood is this young 29-year-old health and safety person at a nuclear reprocessing plant. It wasn't a nuclear power plant. It was the sole place where they were trying to bring the spent fuels from the 103 nuclear power plants, and then grind it all up into powder, and then put it in centrifuges and centrifuge out the plutonium, and then recover the plutonium, and then bring it to the fast flux test facility at Hanford. It was an attempt to figure out what to do with the waste materials. The bottom line is that she discovered that they were missing 40 pounds of 98% bomb-grade plutonium from this facility, and she just concluded that it must have meant that they were really sloppy, that they must have be loose around the planet or around the plant somewhere, and she didn't. So she called the union people that were trying to organize a union at the plant and told them that, oh, look how sloppy they are. They're missing 40 pounds of 98% power-grade plutonium. It was going to Israel for nuclear weapons in violation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Really?
Yeah, and not only that, but they had to then share it with Iran as a condition under the Shah. And then the two of them had to...
No way!
Yeah, it was all true. You know, and
who was facilitating this on the American side?
the Central Intelligence Agency, Theodore Shackley, who was the temporary guy on the Israeli desk. You know, but he had been the former Saigon station chief that ran the assassination program in Southeast Asia too. But so that what I'm saying is that she didn't know what was happening, but that when she got killed on the way to meet with a New York Times reporter to bring him the documents, David Burnham, who was figuring there's a rat in the woodpile here somewhere. This isn't just missing in the plant. And she got killed, run off the road. They rammed her car and ran her off the road and killed her and took the documents out of the car. And this is a real story. This is a really true thing that happened. And I was in charge of the investigation to investigate what happened.